Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV. You're here with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope you're having an absolutely awesome week wherever you are in this world of ours. We have to kick the show off with, this week it's Australia's turn for sort of devastating floods and fires and whatever. And I do ask that everybody keeps everybody in their prayers. Here in Townsville in Queensland, which is a long way from me, I might add, a couple of days' drive, they're in a crisis of a 100-year flood, where there's so far only been a very small loss of life, but, you know, something like 20 or 30,000 houses have been inundated with water, and the floodwaters are still rising. They're still predicting rain for that area. So our hearts and our prayers do go out to them. And then at the southern end of Australia, in Victoria and Tasmania, the little piece that's off the main island here, they've been in severe bushfires this week. So it's sort of a very diverse sort of country, Australia, this little continent, this little island that we call home, that, you know, we can go from one extreme to the other. Here on the Gold Coast, it's actually a sultry sort of day. We've got a little bit of overcast and, you know, tiny few scuddy showers. We're desperate for rain here. So we're sort of hoping that the wet weather will come a little bit further south. Anyway, to kick the show off this week, we're going to start with the Simply Tarot card of the week, which is the Chariot card. Now, this is a major arcana card. This is a card that a lot of people look at it and they have very many varied and different sort of versions of what they think the Chariot card means. But in the olden day terminology, this was how we got around. We'd hook up the chariot to the horses and off we'd go. So in today's modern terms, I suppose we use motorbikes and cars and other forms of transport to get around. But the Chariot is the card of movement of residence, is one meaning. It has many different meanings, this card. So when it comes out in a reading, you have to try and look at what other cards are surrounding it to give you an idea of which basic meaning you would go with. So number one is movement of residence. Number two is journey. Number three is victory over a situation or a problem. And number four is balancing the opposite polarities. More times than not, it is a victory over a situation, something that you've been working on for some time, and it's like finally victory is at hand. But a lot of other times it can be balancing the opposite polarities. And when you look closely at the card, you see one line's white with black markings, the other line's black with white markings, and that's where we get needing to bring things into balance. Sometimes that's the only way we find a solution, is to bring things into balance. So I hope that sort of clears that card up for you, and that's our card of the week for everybody in the globe to share. So it's been an interesting week astrologically. Let's sort of move it along right into that direction. We are in the midst of our new moon in Aquarius. Now, for the February 5th or the 5th of February, wherever you are in this globe of ours, that was the start of the new moon's intensity. Now, if you're a regular viewer to the show, you will know that I like to work with moon cycles in a 7-day cycle. So I like to look at 2 days before the actual new moon or full moon. So that would take it back to the 3rd. 2 days from the 3rd to the 5th, then from the 5th to the 8th. 3 days of the actual moon cycle. Even though the moon cycle is only approximately 2.5 days, let's allow 3 days just to be on the safe side, and then 2 days on the decline. So that would take us back to the 10th of this month. So if you work along those scores, then you'll find that you work with the moon energy fully, and you understand then why that even before we get into the midst of the full moon energy, that you're starting to feel its effects. So it's really, really interesting that we need to be able to work with that and understand why we are getting such a definite sort of pull from the moon's energy. So what does the new moon in Aquarius mean for us basic people, laymen that don't know astrology and don't understand why these moon cycles are so important to us? It's important for us to know that the reasons why we get these cycles is for this reason, that we need to be able to work with the cycles that happen with the changes and the tides which comes from the moon. So a new moon is actually a beginning cycle. It's when we should be starting to instigate new things, bring new ideas towards us, looking at anything that is new. It is sometimes affectionately known as the dark moon because it's, you know, it's the darker side of the moon. It's not full, it's not bright, it's not illuminating this amazing energy. It's sort of more subdued. But I actually prefer the new moon because I always feel very energized when the new moon's coming about, probably because I'm such a positive person and I'm always looking to the future for sort of there could be a new idea just around the corner or something new that I'm going to start. I love to have something to get my teeth into. So anybody that's very positive and very motivated like me, you'll probably feel more comfortable with the new moon. And those people that are sort of more into sort of working with emotions and being able to release and let go of things, they find that they feel more comfortable around the full moon. But that's a personal thing. So with the new moon this month being in Aquarius, what does that mean? It means anything new, exciting, different, time to set our intentions for the next month of the things that we want to bring into our lives in a much more positive way and maybe even longer than a month. But with it being in Aquarius, it can be the time where we have those light bulb moments because the Aquarian energy is about thought patterns, is about things coming to us out of nowhere, a sudden bright idea. Suddenly something shifted, suddenly we've got an answer to the problem that's been plaguing us for some time. Suddenly, sometimes we can feel very restless. We can feel that nothing in our life is going the way that we want it to. So we start to feel sort of very restless, very uncomfortable. This is not the time to actually put things into action. It's the time to be aware of what you're feeling, to write things down and to be ready to sort of build upon them. It's not the time that I suggest that you take that bold, definite sort of step yet. Let's leave it until after the 10th of the month when the energy is just a little tiny bit more stable and you've had a few days to think about it and make sure that it's right for you. So if we were going to be working with one of my soy candles, we would be working with the new moon candle. So what we would be doing is writing 2 or 3 identical lists. I like to say 3 because you pop one each under each candle and then you've got one to read out aloud as you're working with them. So it would be popping things down on a piece of paper, things that are new, things that I want to bring into my life. So it may already be a project that you're working on. And I always have about 15 different projects on my desk that I'm working on at any one time. So I quite often just keep adding to my list for the new moon each month and I cross out what's completed and I sort of resurrect the list and then rewrite or retype a new list ready for the month to be able to be used under my new moon candle. So I like to work with a minimum of 3 things if possible, 3 new things that you'd like to bring into your life. And they don't have to be major things. They could be something simple like that you want to bring in some answers to your health. You know, health is a big thing for people these days. We're more conscious of what we're putting into our bodies and expecting so much more out of our bodies. So it could just be simply wanting some answers to a health issue that's been concerning you or wanting answers to a relationship or a situation with a fellow colleague that's been troubling you. It can be things like wanting to start a new business or wanting to write a book or whatever it may be. It's entirely your choice of what you're putting on there. But I'd also like to suggest too that if we can release 3 things, if we've put 3 things on the list, is there 3 things that we can release, that we can say, okay, thank you, goodbye, you've served your purpose, we can now release you out to the ether, out to the universe. It's not mandatory, but it's like, I like to sort of try and get you to bring everything into balance. You know, if we're attracting 3 new things, let's let go of 3 new things. So that's the new moon candle. Oh, I forgot to sort of talk about, with these candles, they've got 2 wicks, like 1 wick one day, 1 wick the next day. That just gives you a longer burn time. The manufacturers recommend, the candle suppliers recommend about 60-hour burn time for this size candle. It's an extra large one. I actually find I've got up to 100 hours out of mine by burning alternate wicks. So that's entirely up to you how you wish to burn your candle. So, of course, we're working with the Aquarian energy. So we would also be working with an air sign candle. So we would follow the same principle. We would write our list out. We would read it out aloud, popping it underneath the candle as we go to light it. putting the candle on a coaster, never directly on the furniture, because the glass container itself can get hot. The soy wax itself doesn't get hot, but the glass container gets hot. And we don't want, with the changes in barometric pressure, we don't want it cracking and sort of going all over the table. If you do have an accident where you spill some soy wax, hot, warm soapy water, clean it up quickly. It usually shouldn't stain anything if you get to it quickly. It is the wax itself doesn't get hot, but please remember this is fire. Keep it away from children, pets. Don't put it underneath air conditioners and fans and near open windows and curtains. Always be mindful it is a fire. And I always like to sit with my candle. I never leave a candle unattended, no matter how safe I think it might be. So we're looking at burning a candle from between 15 minutes to 2 hours per day for the 7 days of the cycle. Now, plenty of you sort of say to me, Amanda, well, look, that's absolutely fantastic, but I don't have all that room on, my little area to burn candles that size. Have you got anything else? Well, we have a travel kit, or our gift box set that we call them. Now, these candles will burn for about 15 hours. This week I've made it up with 2 air sign candles, and I've made it up with a new moon candle. You can choose any combination that you like in this kit out of the 28 that are in our range. So you don't have to buy what we've got here on the screen. You can choose whatever you like. Now, for a lot of you sort of say, well, that's terrific, but I really don't want to work with a flame, Amanda. What else can I do? Well, they've been out in the market for a little while now. They're called melt warmers. And these are actually an electric sort of version of an oil burner. And you can pick these up at your local department store, your supermarket, around about $15 here in Australia. And I like to use these probably more than I do candles these days, for the simple reason I can flick this on in the morning. I can write my list, have it, read it out aloud, pop it under the melt warmer on the coaster like we do with the candle. I can turn that on. I can leave it going all day and just turn it off of a night when I'm going to go to bed. You can have these in your office. They're very discreet. They're sort of, have a little dish on the top that you can take off, and you can pop that in the freezer to remove your old soy wax. Now, when you're starting to use with a new soy wax for the week, you need 2 teaspoons of wax. So this week I've got a teaspoon of the air sign wax in my melt warmer and a teaspoon of my new moon wax, and then each day I add half a teaspoon of each. So this makes it fairly economical. Those extra large candles will last you an awfully long time working with the moon cycles. So that's my suggestion for those. So it's important that we work constantly with the energy, and that we understand what the energy is about, because the more we learn to work with the different cycles that we talk about each week here on the show, the more you're sending out to the universe your definite plan or your shopping list for what you require in your life. The universe likes direction. Your spirit guides, your guardian angels, passed over loved ones, whatever label you want to put on it that you believe in, they're there to listen, and they're there to help and guide us and to help bring our dreams to reality. But we have to show them that we're putting the effort in first, and we've included them in. And this is one of the reasons why I like to read everything out aloud. It's a definite sort of statement that I've taken ownership of what I'm trying to change in my life. So we're going to be sort of, oh yes, before I forget, so here in Australia we have free postage on any products and services here at amandahallpsychic.com.au. This week I'm really excited to announce for our international family, we've been able to reduce the cost of our flat fee postage everywhere in the world by about 40%. We've got a new provider here in Australia, so that makes it really exciting. So, a 40% saving on what we used to have to charge you guys to send stuff overseas, and we've always had a flat fee for that. So it doesn't matter how much product that you buy, it's one flat fee. It's not added per item, it's one flat fee. So I'm really excited about that. Nearly 40% saving is a huge saving. So that makes things a little bit more economical for our friends overseas. Now, we're going to be working with our famous actress this week, and it's our actress in Leo. And this week I've chosen Sandra Bullock. Now, most of you would know Sandra Bullock. She's been around for a very, very long time. She started out quite young in the industry. She's a very talented actress who can do everything from very serious roles to romantic comedy to she's done such a diversity in acting throughout the years, and she always takes on projects that she believes has a definite message to share or to bring to the world at this point in time. And there was one particular movie that I think was called The Net that she did that was in the very early stages of people, you know, getting into the internet and working on the internet and all those sort of things, and she brought to the screen a lot of very valid points that I think made a lot of people sort of, hey, sit up and take notice that, hang on a minute, this is not a toy. This is not something that we should all just be very complacent about. We all need to start looking at our, you know, cybersecurity and all those sort of things. And I know it was just a movie, but I think it revolutionised the way the average person looked at their own internet usage. That was just one of her many movies. She's been voted twice as the highest paid actress in the world, two consecutive years, and 2 times in her career. So that's an amazing feat. But I think the most important thing that I like about Sandra Bullock is that she's still got her feet very much on the ground. She's a no-nonsense sort of person. And for a Leo, that's a really interesting combination, because even though her being a Leo gives her the ability to be an actress, and a lot of actors and actresses are under the sign of Leo, the ability to perform, but she has her feet very firmly planted on the ground. And one of her major soapbox issues, I suppose, if you want to call it that, is her ability to want to try and motivate and impress young women that the sky is the limit, that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. If you keep yourself grounded and focused and be realistic, there's no reason why you can't aim for the stars and achieve your dreams. And I think that's a really important message to send out to the younger female population, that, you know, anything is possible. Here's a woman who's, you know, a mature woman now. For all her fame, for all her fortune, she has never stopped being the basic, down-to-earth, motivated person that she's always been. Fame and fortune have not changed her. She still looks for roles in movies that have a definite message to share with people. She doesn't want anything that doesn't give her that sort of situation. She wants to be able to sort of bring to people a message that is important. So we're going to take our first caller, if I can get it up on the screen. My screen's gone funny today. It's Alison in Gainesville, Georgia, USA. Are you there, Alison?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Alison. Have you got a question I can help you with tonight, sweetie?
Yes, basically, well, what type of readings do you do? Is it just like
I'll answer your question for you. I am a medium, sweetie, but on the show it's very difficult to tune into somebody on the other side with such limited time. I prefer to work with a direct question. Do you have a question I can answer for you?
About my career. What do you see occurring?
All right, let's have a look at your career for you. The first thing I'm picking up, Alison, is I don't know that you've necessarily given this enough thought yet. They're showing me sort of question marks around the career, but they're also showing me that I don't know that we're directly on the right path as such yet. So I still feel that there needs to be a little bit of thinking, a little bit of thought, a little bit of exploring and looking at what options are there, looking at what your skill set is now and looking at how we can improve that or how we can make that better. And I feel by the time we get to the month of April this year, I think you'll have a much clearer direction on where it is that you want to be taking your career. I don't see a job change as yet, but I do see some new skills or some adding on some study that needs to be achieved and completed before we start looking for a new job. Because otherwise what we would be doing is just sort of looking at keeping the window dressing the way it is, and that's not necessarily where we want to be. I want to see you sort of get into something that you can get your teeth into. The other thing that they're showing me, Alison, is are you contemplating making a change of residence?
Making a change of what?
Residence. Are you thinking of moving home?
Moving home?
Yes. Are you thinking of moving?
No.
Well, they're showing me some big decisions around August around where you're living, at whether or not you're going to stay there or whether you're going to make either a change of residence or make some severe changes, some definite changes to where you're living. So I actually felt it was going to be a change of residence. I'll leave that with you. I mean, not always do we know everything that's coming up in our lives. That could very well be connected to the direction that your career is going to take you, that sort of brings up other issues that we need to sort of look at. Who's the dark-headed young man in your life as well?
Well, my husband has dark hair.
Right, okay, good. Well, that's wonderful. We've got your husband in the equation. Good. So has he been going through his own changes this year too, as far as his looking at his own career?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel he's the one that's going to be sort of making a change before you do.
Okay.
But for both of you, I think... What's Sweetie?
Regarding relationship, what do you see?
Oh, I don't feel that the marriage is in any trouble or anything like that. I think both of you are just very busy and you both seem to be self-absorbed with your own situations that you sometimes forget about each other. And that's something I think you both need to be sort of responsible for and look at improving. So, I mean, I don't see the marriage ending or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Lovely to talk with you. We're going to go to Nancy now in Florida. Are you there, Nancy?
Yes, I am.
How are you tonight, Nancy? How can I help you, sweetie?
Well, my dad had just passed on the 2nd, and I wasn't able to be there for him, and I just want, I don't know, I want him to know I'm sorry. I didn't make it down.
I'm very sorry, Nancy, I'm sorry that your father's just passed. I mean, it's always a traumatic time when we lose someone that we care about. Look, sweetie, I don't feel anything from your dad in as much as that he's unhappy at the fact that you didn't get there or you weren't able to get there. I'm not even sure that he was expecting you to come. Yes, it would have been a bonus if you had, but I don't feel that he was expecting or waiting for you or holding on for you to come. He had already sort of resigned himself that it would be impossible or literally impossible for you to get there. So I don't want you to feel sort of guilty about that. I feel he was ready to go, if that makes any sense, that, he'd achieved everything. And
it was his time.
Yeah, it definitely was his time, and I feel that he's known that for some time. So the fact that you didn't get there in time doesn't trouble him in any way. I actually think and this sounds a very selfish thing to say, but he's pleased that you weren't there at the end. He's pleased that the memories that you've got of him are as they should be, not as he was just before he passed, because he didn't look his best.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just... So
don't beat yourself up about it. I mean,
yeah.
He understands and he's happy that you didn't get there in time. He was a very strong man who had very strong opinions, wasn't he?
Yes, very, very.
Yeah, because that's the energy that he's given me. I'm so surprised he's coming through so quickly, after passing. He's just so determined that he was getting a message through and that's it, like nobody was going to get in his road. He keeps saying to me, I don't know what he means by this, but he keeps showing me somebody marching up and down on the spot like a soldier, but they're dressed in a uniform, but it's not a soldier's uniform. But I think it's sort of like you've got to get ready to march or something. You've got to get ready to get into action or something. He's telling you you've got to be ready like a soldier. Get into the beat. Get into the right rhythm. You know what I mean? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get ready. That makes sense to you, doesn't
it? Yeah, it does. It does. Suck it up basically and deal with it. Yep.
Oh, well, that's good because that was the only other thing he showed me, and then he was sort of as quick as he came, he was gone again. But that was very, his symbolism to me was like a man in uniform, marching up and down on the spot, getting ready to march, get into the beat, into the rhythm. And that's what he wants you to do. But, he's certainly not unhappy about being gone. I mean, he was certainly his time and he was ready and he was just very clear about that, and he was just so pleased he didn't get there. So, please don't be upset about it. I think you'll find he'll be a fairly regular visitor. It mightn't be every day, but you'll certainly know his presence when he's been. It's sort of, it's not, that could have been Dad. It'll be definitely that was Dad, because it's just things that he'll do that you just can't mistake it. It's like if you like all your photographs neat and tidy and in a row, he'll come in and move them just so to annoy you. You know what I mean? To let you know I've been there. It'll be very definite things with Dad. So, but he's telling me that you're moving house. Well, I think that's what he meant. He showed me he picked the house up and he dropped it over here. So I think that means you're moving.
Okay. Okay.
But he didn't show me anything else other than that.
Yeah, I have no plans to move or anything, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, if you can read something else into that message that he gave me, literally picking the house up and placing it somewhere else, well, then that's fine. But that's the only way I could interpret that. To me, it was sort of like, well, you're not going willingly, so I'm going to pick you up and dump you over there, and that's it. That's job done.
Yeah. Okay.
And that seemed to be the way he operated. It was sort of like, this is the way I do things. Yeah. But he loves you, and he's always going to be with you. Very matter of fact. He loves you, and he'll always be with you, and there's nothing that you could have done any more for him than what you did. He just wants you to be happy. So I hope that's helped you.
Yes, it has.
Lovely to talk to you. Wonderful. So on next week's show, we're going to be talking about soulmates. It's a question that a lot of people sort of ask me about, and I thought that could be instead of working on love for Valentine's Day, I thought we'd have a little talk about soulmates next week. So tune into that next week. For those of you that want to learn a little bit more about the new moon in Aquarius, I have another show on Facebook Live directly after my show here on A1R Psychic Radio at Amanda Hall Psychic, where we'll be talking a little bit more about the new moon in Aquarius. For those of you that want to join our newsletter, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. If you want to book a private reading with me, go to my website, type in the word radio at the coupon box, and you'll get a discount for watching the show. So I hope each and every one of you have an absolutely awesome week wherever you are. And don't forget, be kind to each other, be kind to yourselves, but most importantly, wear your best asset every single day when you go out, and that's your smile. So until next week, bye for now.